Pets Life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.
I love it. We're having a bit of fun here with myself and Des, having a chat offline. Do you know what? It is that time of the year again. We're just chilling out, putting a smile on our face. The weather was here yesterday. It was 25.5 degrees yesterday going home in the car.
Was, yeah. And you know what? I went up to Dublin yesterday evening in the car, and it was very hot in the car. Glad when we got there. Guess where I was yesterday evening?
Where were you?
I was in the 3 Arena.
All right.
At Liam Gallagher.
Good idea. Rocking.
Yeah, I was a great old Oasis fan when I was younger, and I'm one of these people who'd love to see them back together. I'd pay any money to go and watch Noel and Liam together.
There's rumours that they are coming back together, that they've sorted their feud. It only came out the last 48 hours, by the way. So
hot off the presses.
Hot off the presses.
So there's one tour, there's one concert left in that Definitely Maybe tour, which is Manchester. And so if that's the case, that Noel and Liam are back talking, or they have some type of an agreement reached, maybe Noel might make an appearance in Manchester next week.
Yeah, it could be anything along those lines. We'd wait and see. It'd be interesting to see, will they? But I was watching some of we were talking about it over the last couple of days, just about Glastonbury's arriving this weekend, and some of the gigs that they've done individually and everything else. So imagine if they got back together as a unit, they'd be something else.
You know, Liam was amazing. He was some performer last night. It was incredible.
But did he sing all the Oasis stuff as well?
Yeah, he did. Supernova, all the good songs from the very first album, the Definitely Maybe album. Yeah. Sounded it was the same as Oasis.
Yeah, that's what you want, though, isn't it, when you go to a gala?
That was great. So it was a little bit like a GAA match. It was all my age group there. There was more bald heads than full heads of hair.
I love it. Yeah, but they are what they are, and Liam is. I know Paul Power's a huge fan of Liam Gallagher as well, and the High Flying Birds with Nolan, of course, too. Right, let's turn our attentions to matters at hand. First of all, we were just saying the temperature is 25, 26 degrees. Before we go into our topic of conversation about diabetes, it is this time of the year where you have to be wary of your pets, especially bringing them out for walks in cars, making sure they've got the right amount of liquid inside them, and of course, making sure they got ventilated and all. What type of tips are we talking about there, Dave?
Well, we see it's actually too hot for Irish dogs.
Yeah.
They're not used to it. And they're going to react a little bit strangely. And the behaviours could be a spectrum of different things. You can get full-blown heat stroke if you're really, really unlucky, but mild versions of it are really common. We've even seen that in Gym Dog yesterday, dogs that are troubled by the heat. And mild versions of it would be excessive panting, looking for water and then not drinking enough because the water's warm. That's a peculiar thing. Yeah. They're looking for water, then they won't drink it.
Yeah.
That's one thing you have to watch out for. So they need cool water, cold water. Yeah. And they need to be brought in. They'll stay out in the heat too long if they're let. Yeah. Right? And then dehydration, mild dehydration and so on, it'll manifest itself as nausea, maybe vomiting, maybe diarrhoea.
But I was talking to somebody only a week ago back. It was a vet's nurse, and she was saying something like they had a case where the person thought that they were doing the right thing because they put the kennel into a shaded area.
Right.
But what they didn't realise was the dog got dehydrated. But what they didn't realise is that at certain times of the day, the sun had come around, had heated up the kennel, even though technically it was in the shade, and they thought it was grand because the dog was going in, and had knocked over his own bowl of water, and subsequently, they had to put him on a drip.
Yeah, like all these things will happen, of course, because the sun moves. Yeah. So a cool shed on a concrete floor, dry floor, might be needed in places like that. Yeah. Or bring them in. Nice, if you have a conservatory or a back kitchen, bring them in, but open all the doors and windows. Yeah. Make sure they're in the shade.
The other one would be, of course, a lot of people, especially with the smaller dogs, when they're going off shopping and off to the supermarkets, they have their little dogs in the car, they leave them in the car, and sometimes they leave the windows up, and there's all sorts of horror stories you hear about.
Now, people are very aware of that in car parks nowadays, right? So I would say anyone with a dog like that, you probably can't go anywhere with a dog, because believe me, other people will break your windows to get air into the dog.
Okay.
Yeah, they will.
They will. Yeah.
And do you know what? They might be right to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I wouldn't be travelling anywhere unnecessary with the dog.
No, especially on hot days like yesterday.
On hot days.
Yeah.
Exactly. Anything over about 18 is too hot for Irish dogs, I think.
Right, okay, fair enough. Yeah, and that's when they pant and they go for, yeah. And if you're bringing a dog for walkies at the moment, I suppose it's either early in the morning or late in the evening, is it?
Early in the morning, late in the evening, do the walks little and often, break it up. Lovely in the evening after 8 o'clock to bring them to the Curragh for a run inside the racecourse area.
Imagine,
there.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's really good, isn't it?
And they love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Matters at hand. Today we are talking about diabetes in pets, and you were saying when we were discussing this, it's a growing epidemic. So first of all, we'll talk about the growing epidemic part in just a moment.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit about, definition of diabetes within animals.
Yeah, diabetes is worth a little mention because it's surprisingly common in animals just as it is in people, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
So how do you recognise it? Well, the first thing is they drink excessively. They'll generally also urinate or pee excessively. They'll be the two things associated with diabetes. Now, you'll also see, if it's a type 1 diabetes, some weight loss, they're losing appetite, they're losing energy levels. So, lethargic. Diabetes kind of tends to emerge, type 1, early adult life. Now, dogs typically get type 1 diabetes. That's the inherited or the congenital kind.
Yeah.
That's where the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin.
Right, okay.
And their blood glucose is too high. The glucose levels in their urine also too high. It's a type of a metabolic disorder. Insulin is required to regulate the metabolism. So if they don't produce enough insulin themselves, their metabolism is haywire, their glucose levels are all wrong, and that makes them very sick. So that's the type 1 form. Dogs get type 1. Now, type 2 diabetes is the form that's in the news for the wrong reasons, because type 2 levels of diabetes are very high in the human population. Now, dogs don't typically get type 2 diabetes, but here's the interesting thing. Cats get type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
So this is where the idea of an epidemic comes in, because house cats are becoming more and more, unfortunately, overweight. Cat foods are very rich. Cat foods are designed now to be really tasty. People love to see their cat...
Too much salt in them.
Too much salt in them, and sugar and everything else, and it's fattening. And cats are getting heavy, becoming obese from living indoors, from not exercising enough. And then you have this type 2 diabetes level increasing in the cats.
Yeah. I think, because you compare cats to dogs you can seem to manage more. Cats are shaggers because they'll go off around the place and eat food galore everywhere they get food.
So it's really hard to manage. If you let your cat start to get too heavy in the beginning,
it's going to be hard to control that.
Really hard to reverse that. So the only thing is practice good food habits from the word go with a cat. Yeah.
And quick as a flash, first question in regarding cats. It says, my problem is that my cat this time of the year has gone off dry food. Subsequently, we took Des's advice. We mixed some wet food in with the dry food to make it more crunchy. It's better than it was, but still not getting her to eat as much.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit worried. I often say to people, just pay less attention to what the cat's eating, as long as the cat's eating a little.
Yeah.
Regularly, I wouldn't worry. The reason why is because their metabolic rate drops by 20-25%. Right. They need 20 to 25% less food anyway.
Right.
And if you have an outdoor cat there, they hunt. They hunt.
I just found
this time of year,
2 dead mice on the
yeah. This is the gruesome fact that we can't get away from.
Yeah.
Cats will hunt and they will eat mice, they'll eat birds.
Yeah, and plus the fact is I've noticed that sometimes they get ill from it as well. They cough it all up later on
they
because
make
they don't know
themselves sick.
Yeah. But they love bringing it to you and showing it to you as, look what I got, Dad.
Yeah, well, as long as they don't bring it to you, then vomit it all back up on the doorstep.
They have. Don't worry about it. I've seen that before with previous cats.
That's the cats. So, listener, don't worry as long as your cat's eating a little at this time of year.
Yeah.
Really don't overthink it.
How do cats stay hydrated this time of the year?
They need much less water than dogs.
Right.
They tend to derive a lot of their water from moisture from what they eat.
Right. Okay.
And they will drink a little.
Yeah.
They love to eat to drink. They love to drink from a moving water source.
Right.
So they'll drink from a dripping drain or a dripping tap, or any type of a moving water source that they find out and about.
Right, they'll just automatically do it.
Yeah.
That's interesting, very good. Okay. I've seen it before when you go into pet shops, they have these little waterfall things that they sell.
Yeah, do you remember we were saying here one of the weeks we were talking about house cats, things you can do to keep them busy. So a nice moving water font inside in your apartment if you have an indoor cat is a great idea.
Brilliant. Okay, back to the matters at hand. Diabetes. So what are the warning signs?
The warning sign of type 1 diabetes be a bit of.
Is there a common denominator between 1 and 2?
Yeah, well, the common denominator is what we call PUPD, is what we call it. That's the waterworks. The malfunctioning of the waterworks. They'll drink loads and they'll pee loads. Right? So, number one symptom, their dog, the cat, drinks all the time.
So if your dog or cat is on the overweight side of things anyway, and you notice that he's cocked his leg and she isn't, but I mean, you know where I'm coming from.
A big
more
change
often,
in the drinking.
Yes.
Big change in the drinking.
And wanting more.
Yes. Very noticeable, big change in the drinking. Alarm bells always. First on the list will be diabetes. Vets will rule out diabetes first. There are other things that can cause that, but diabetes is the most common.
Does it affect some breeds rather than other breeds? Or is it a case of if your dog is overweight, your dog is overweight?
There's no breed predisposition.
Okay.
Across the board. You can't rule it out in almost any breed.
Okay. What about preventative measures?
Preventative measures, so firstly as regards to the cat, with the preventing type 2 diabetes is all about just keeping your cat fit, observing a good lifestyle, good diet, and you can prevent type 2 diabetes in cats by doing that. Now, you can't really prevent type 1 diabetes, John. Unfortunately, if you have a dog or a cat and it's in their genes that they might develop type 1 diabetes, there isn't a lot you can do to prevent it.
Yeah.
So, looking for the early warning signals that the cat or dog is drinking loads, and then let's do some tests. If diabetes is diagnosed early, it can be managed in dogs. Even type 1 can be managed without insulin if it's diagnosed early. Okay,
separate question, but I'm going to give it now because she wants the answer. Just to go out. Where is it? There you go. Selena. Selena has a collie that's 4 years old. We gave him spot on and we gave him preventative measures as per your instruction about 5 weeks ago back. 5 weeks later, he seems to be still scratching and we found a tick. Would it be a case that the spot on didn't work?
No, they're only guaranteed to work for 4 to 5 weeks.
Okay, right, fair enough. So
keep it up, keep repeating it, yeah.
And
absolutely.
Just rub it in the back of the neck.
So a high risk dog like a collie that's out and about in the countryside, probably advisable to do them every month to 6 weeks during the summer.
And just to follow on from that, something like collies or something like dogs that have the big hairy necks and stuff like that, and you have to put it. How do you get in how do you get the stuff down into
you part the hair till you can see a little bit of skin, and open the pipette and squeeze the contents of it on the one place in the skin where you can get to. It will soak through a bit of hair.
Yeah.
But try and get it on the skin.
Okay, so and once it gets to the skin, then it goes down through the pores of the skin.
Yeah, absolutely. But if you part the hair and a bit of it goes on the hair, it doesn't matter. It'll still get through.
Okay. After diagnosis, here's a question. After diagnosis of diabetes, what's the next step? Good question, actually.
Okay, so typically in animals, the only treatment for diabetes has been the injection of insulin.
Okay.
Now, there have been some advances, some modernisations, great breakthroughs in the line of diabetes treatment. So, typically, we've had to inject insulin with the little syringes twice a day.
And you know the little yoke that adults have on humans where they just check your insulin? Did you have something similar for
there's injector pens as well.
Yeah?
There's injector pens. There are little monitors we can give owners to check the insulin themselves. There are injector pens we can give them to inject the insulin themselves. But that has always been a twice a day insulin injection plan. Now, there's a little bit of a change. There's a new product out called Insulin Pro Zinc.
Okay, yeah.
There's a zinc compound in the insulin that extends the lifespan of it, and we're at the stage now where these dogs are down to once a day injection. That's a big thing.
Okay.
And on the cat
who gives
side,
the injection? The owner does?
Unfortunately, the owners have to.
Right.
Yeah, so little bit of instruction, little bit of mentoring. We'll show the owners what to do. Hopefully, the dog is amenable. They need to.
Is there a plan B though if it doesn't work that way?
I tell you what now, right? Unfortunately, typically going back over the years, the failure rate with diabetes treatments in dogs has been too high. And typically that's because a lot of our dogs maybe wouldn't have been as well trained, and difficult for owners through lifestyle and compliance and everything else to inject the insulin twice a day. So one of the barriers to effective treatment of insulin has been the fact that either the patient won't comply or the owner is having difficulties managing the injection regime. So the old twice a day insulin injection plan is a right pain sometimes for both the patient and the owner.
Right.
But, as I say, the breakthrough is now the Prozinc is reducing the treatment to once a day injection on the dog side. And on the cat side, John, this is worth saying, imagine trying to inject a contrary, antisocial, solitary cat twice a day for diabetes.
Because once they got it once, they won't come back for something.
Can be very difficult. A lot of cats are not amenable to treatment, so compliance is one of the reasons why there's a big failure rate of diabetes treatment in cats. But there's been a breakthrough. There's a new drug called Senvelgo, which is a liquid. It's an oral supplement that you can give just like giving a Calpol.
Yeah, okay, cool.
So we're moving away from the cat injections, the cat injections of the insulin. We're moving over to a nice syrup that can be given with a dropper on the tongue once a day. And I actually read recently in one of the veterinary journals that a professor of internal medicine said the time will come when we will reminisce about how difficult it was to treat diabetes in the old days. These new medications are coming on stream, and they're oral and they're convenient, and they're real breakthrough drugs. They're going to totally revolutionise the effectiveness with which we're able to manage diabetes. So that's great news. Okay,
question in as well, or it's more a comment than anything else. It's unsigned, we just see it popping in there. I had a diabetic dog. I found it to be very expensive and very much a big commitment. Not sure if I'd do it again because of the harrowing. Look, I can understand where they're coming from as well.
This is so you're in and out of the vets quite a bit.
Yeah.
They can be hard enough to stabilise. Sometimes it's a bit late by the time we diagnose the diabetes, and that means then that getting the insulin dosage right, regulating the whole thing, getting the dog stable, getting the blood glucose levels to the right level and stable and not fluctuating too much. That can be a challenge. So people are in and out of the vets a lot, and maybe the vets have to tweak the dosage, change the dose. Or we're going to try 14 units twice a day now.
Yeah.
Then we're going to blood test them again next week. Can be very difficult for people.
What ages are we talking about here, by the way, Des?
Generally, type 1 diabetes can be diagnosed from about 2 years of age onwards.
Yeah, okay.
Type 2 diabetes, no, maybe 7 or 8 or 9.
Okay, so question, well, again, another comment. These are comments more so than questions, because obviously people have gone through it.
Yeah.
Hi, John Des. My Scottish Terrier was diagnosed with diabetes age 7. We put her on a special diet and insulin twice a day, and she lived another 6 years. Now, while that was back in 2007, she was a lovely dog, says Trish in Selbridge. Well, things have changed since 2007, obviously, so that would have been tough for her to do that. But at the same time, the reward is she got the lifespan of the dog as an extra 6 or 7 years.
6 or 7 years. So we've had loads of patients over the years, really committed people like that, who've been able to manage the injecting and been able to stick to the new diet, and the dogs live a normal life. Life expectancy is normal if treatment goes according to plan, if treatment can be managed.
Okay.
Many people haven't been able to manage the treatment through, sometimes it's the dog is not amenable to the twice daily injecting, and sometimes it's just too difficult for people to manage lifestyle wise. But as I say, there is hope out there. We have the new once a day injection regime now for dogs, and we have the new once a day oral syrup for cats.
Yeah.
So we're on the cusp of a breakthrough.
Okay, Paula was on. She wants to know, hey Des, our Labrador has a habit the last couple of weeks or so, eating flowers in the garden. The real nice smelly ones, she says.
Right.
Is this normal? Is it safe, or can we prevent it, or does it really matter?
Yeah, it mightn't be safe off the top of my head. It depends what
type of flower.
Yeah, there are a number of common garden flowers that are toxic that I'd be wary of.
Okay, very interesting, yeah.
Some certain tulips and so on.
Yeah.
So I'd be wary of that. But sure, as regards why he's doing it, Labradors, unfortunately, they explore the world with their
Nose.
Their nose and tongue, yeah. They do
absolutely.
Eat too much.
They're a natural, like a
natural
retriever
scavenger.
or whatever else. That's what they do, and that makes sense as well. But thank you for the kind comment on it. You know, when you think about kind of diabetes now, has the trend changed? You used the word when we were talking about this as epidemic. Is it at that stage now?
There's more of it out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Now, some of it is house cats just not getting enough exercise and gaining weight because the cat foods are too fattening. That's one factor. On the dog side, yes, it can also be lifestyle. Yeah, it can be. And unfortunately, you have probably overbreeding of dogs. So whenever you see overbreeding, such as we've had in the last 5 to 10 years, the incidence of all of these congenital problems, the incidence of every problem increases. Too many dogs out there, folks. And too many dogs being bred from that shouldn't be bred from.
Yeah.
So that's part of the difficulty.
But the other thing is that if you're not giving your dogs the exercise that they deserve, or not bringing them out for walks, and they're locked up all day in the back garden or in a cage or whatever the case may be, you're going to have problems further down the line.
You will. You'll have problems of some sort. Thankfully, there's less of that, though, to be fair. People use doggy daycare, and more modern owners are bonded with their dogs in a really committed way. So I think the level of kind of more responsible dog ownership, it is increasing. Bad cases are in the news, badly behaved dogs and all the rest of it, that's in the news. So we know that there's a need for regulation and tightening up in some ways regarding dog ownership and dog behaviour. But by and large, the trend is towards better information, better commitment on the part of dog owners, and more responsible, better dog ownership, definitely, compared to 20 years ago. John, I'm 25 years in practice in Kildare, 32 years working as a vet, and there's been a culture change in Irish animal ownership. When I worked in the UK in the mid-90s as a young vet, I marvelled at the level of commitment that English people had, and the extent of the bond that the typical English dog owner had. The old trend, or the old cliche, I should say, about the Englishman and his dog was very much the case. And the English were always said to be a nation of dog lovers. Yeah. And I saw that in veterinary practice in England. The dog business over there in the 90s was booming, when Ireland's was felt like 50 years behind it. We were very much still an agricultural country, and there were only a few specialist pet hospitals, probably in Dublin or Galway or Cork, in the cities. Now there are specialist pet hospitals like ours in Kildare town, in every town. Yeah. So that idea of the trend towards a really tight animal owner bond, we're at that stage now in Ireland, and it's a great thing. It's a great thing because a dog enhances people's lives. Yeah, absolutely. Provided they get the information and do it right.
Okay, good stuff. Okay, we'll park it there for this week. That was a great fun, I have to say, Des, and very enlightening as well at the same time.
Thanks, John.
We'll do it all again. We'll be putting this up on podcast a little bit later on this afternoon. As always, you can check out all the various different episodes through our podcast section on kfmradio.com. Des, thank you for that.
It's a pet's life with Gym Dog, Ireland's first pet resort by Des the Vet. Managed by vets, loved by pets. Daycare, vet care, premium pet food and grooming. Visit at petslife.ie.